All right, can you hear me? I can't hear you. What the hell? What's going on? This is just weird. I heard the intro. I can hear everything else. I just can't hear you. Hmm.
Hold on. You know what?
Oh,
I think
now I
my
can hear
mic
you.
was muted this whole time.
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Believe me,
That's
don't
on
feel bad.
me.
I have done it
Ladies and gentlemen,
myself.
my apologies. It was mute there for a second. Oh my goodness. Well,
Oh,
anyway,
I've done it,
it's your
man.
favorite paranormal investigator, Tim Sudano, here with Joe Montaldo.
Excuse me, there, but I've done
Welcome
it
back to the
myself.
show.
Oh, thank you, man. I was on like a 15 minute queue one time when a friend of mine calls in. He goes, we can't hear you. Yeah, you can hear you. And I looked over and I seen the little red
No
light
one can
flash.
hear
Oh,
you at all.
that's fine.
Yep. Exactly what happened to me just now.
That's why when
Good
I try to
times, good
use I
times.
try to use the mic on here instead of the mic you on here, because if I got this mic where it's at right now, it's below me, so I don't see any lights on it. It's kind of weird. I got to go get a new
Yeah,
cord.
I'm in the same position. I got my mic up here. Yeah.
Usually my mic is
Well,
up here.
let's
It's
jump
usually
back in.
above. Right now it's back in here. Okay, man.
Oh, okay. Looks fine. It's a good picture. Let's jump back into alien stuff and UFOs and UAPs and all that fun stuff. I had a question regarding alien species. What abductees are seeing, what we have interacted with, I don't know, at the government level, and that type of thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we were trying Saturday. We were doing a show on that actually. Wednesday, but somehow we got sidetracked. I'm not exactly sure how. When we got the panel together, it's easy to get sidetracked. But anyway, for us, it's a little thing. So for ICAR, we investigate really about six types of aliens. These people always tell me there's 56 types or there's 86 types, but I haven't seen any evidence for that. I can only go by what there's evidence for, not because someone said they saw it.
Okay.
I need multiple sightings or things like in ancient history. You can see the grays. They talk about the grays. They talk about the reptilians. They talk about the humans. So you have that plus all the people who have seen them in between. So we know. So that's three right there. We know that's the principal three who do alien abductions. We know the light beings. Every once in a blue moon might stop by, but evolutionary, they're so far ahead of us that there's no common ground. So at least with the Greys, reptilians, and humans, they're still making it through the universe. They're like us in a lot of ways, except they're just 700 million years more advanced, a billion years more advanced. They've been around a lot longer. So it's like if you come see us in a million
Right.
years or a billion years, where are we going to be? So it's the same for them. The light beings seem to be much much older. Then there's Charles Hall's tall whites. This was
Yeah.
tough,
The
man.
guys I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a tough one because in the beginning it was just Charles Hall. He said, "Okay, Joe, I was the first show he ever did. He came on my show and he said, "Oh, they went gambling in Las Vegas." I almost fell out of the chair. Man. I really did. I almost went right out of the chair. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, Mr. Hall, did you just tell me that the aliens got dressed up in black outfits and went gambling? He said, "Well, yes, they did." And I was like, "Oh, he could not really have said that." But my problem was, since I have degrees in voice stress analysis and body language and stuff like that, I was like, he didn't appear to be lying. And I interviewed him many times
Right.
after that. So, regardless of what anybody wants to say about Charles Halls and the Millennial books, he believes every word he said. Now, can I say 100% every word he said was true? I don't know, but he personally believes every word he said was true. Now, after about six of these interviews, Finally, we got some calls out of Las Vegas. First, we got a taxi cab driver who called us, who happened to have been driving a limousine that night that was parked behind the one where these so-called beings were. And then we had another limousine driver call us right smack about 4 months after that. We had two state troopers called back to back that were working inside the casino that had seen, gave
Hmm.
outstanding testimony. And then we had a local Las Vegas PD come through, and then a couple of people who worked in casinos. There were some dealers. A baccarat dealer actually came forward. A poker dealer actually came forward. Roulette spinner actually came forward. So we had a couple of them. Then we got some more other people, other type drivers that were seeing them coming and going, people working the doors and stuff like that. But all together, and I make it sound like a lot, but all together, from when I met him way back 20 something years ago to today, there are only maybe 25 witnesses.
Well, and I'm
So
one of them because I actually
right,
saw these creatures for myself.
so we'll say 26. So for the Grays, there's like 60,000.
Right.
So
That
it's
is a lot,
and
comparatively.
even if it's 600, it's still a lot. So it's the point being is it's a tough one. So but we took them out of okay, probably not to maybe so to yeah. It's looking more and more like maybe. So then we asked him what type of crafts because Charles had seen the crafts. So we asked him what type of craft it was. He got into some detail about it. So we marked that. We didn't actually, we actually edited that part out of the audio, out of the
Oh,
audio.
interesting.
So because I wanted people to tell me, I didn't want them to hear it and
Oh,
repeat
and
what they
then
heard.
regurgitate it. Right. That
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
so we had it clipped. He had my producer do it that night. Actually, he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." Can you take it out tonight? He said, "Yeah, I'll get it out." And then after that, we've heard descriptions of this particular craft. I don't know, 4 or 5 dozen times. Not like saucers or spheres or triangles or things like that, or those weird elongated things. Those rectangular craft, whatever the hell you want to call them. So there's lots of those around, and those go way back in the ancient world as well.
Yeah.
So those we kind of know it's reptilians, humans, grays. We know the grays really use the saucers. They prefer to have I just call it a saucer type, and they have big motherships, but theirs usually a spherical shape. They're not. The reptilians and the humans ships look more like Borg ships when they're in deep space than they do.
Cool.
And I mean, they do. I mean, they're big and square. And well, there's a video taken from one of NASA's cameras of these three things sitting next to the sun. NASA tried to say it was an aperture failure, but then it moved.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, wait, aperture failures don't move. Anyway, they seen this thing 4 or 5 times. It looked like they were trying, maybe they were doing some type of gate. I mean, they were right up against the sun, and so people, they look this big against the sun. Do you know how big this is?
Yeah. They're gigantic. Yeah.
Yes, they're huge, and that's probably why they don't get anywhere near our planet because they could probably affect our gravity. They are huge,
That makes
and
sense.
so and even the gray ships. I mean, when you're in any of these ships, if you're in the middle of the ship and you look up and down, you can't see top or bottom.
Okay.
Humans can usually see a few miles, so figure that one out. Let that one wiggle around in your head for a while.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, I know they usually stay parked out somewhere around Jupiter.
Hmm.
I don't think they even come in, except for the ones that were by the sun. I don't think they even come into the inner solar system. There's probably many reasons why they don't. But other craft do. I mean, there's all sorts of other kind of craft, smaller craft. I think 50 types we've categorized over the years, maybe even a few more than that.
Okay.
6 or 7 types. See, well, the Greys like these triangles. I mean, not the Greys. The humans like these triangle things, not just little triangles. They like big. The one we seen in Tampa Bay, this thing was at least 3 mile by 3 mile by 2 miles thick. This
Is
thing
this the
was,
same type that went over Phoenix?
yeah, no, this was bigger than what went over Phoenix. This thing
Oh.
completely covered an entire island. If it would have been over Phoenix, there would have been a dark spot over Phoenix by about three, by almost 9 miles square. That's
Wow.
how big it. Yeah, it was huge because it was 3 by 3 by 3, and then it was 2 miles thick. Uh, so the thing was
2 miles
huge.
thick.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you look like just, it was so crazy when we heard this report. This was when was this 80, 90, 94. We heard this report, No, actually, it was 95. So we heard this report, and a bunch of us got together and went down there. So we'll go out to the island now. We don't believe you. Y'all be crazy. Nobody's seeing things like this. So we're out there messing around. I even bought some fishing stuff. So I'm going to go fishing while I'm out here. You're like 3 miles off of Tampa.
What?
So you might as well enjoy yourself, do some fishing, right? So I'm sitting there,
Absolutely.
and because we came out, and actually we didn't even come out by boat. We came out by helicopter. It was cheaper, and as a group, it was cheaper.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff figured that one out. So anyway, we get out there, they land. We tell them to come back and pick us up. We're hanging out, doing our thing. There's camera equipment everywhere. I mean, high dollar, cheap shit. I mean, you name it, throwaway camera stuff everywhere. So
Wow.
what was it? 15 of us, 14 of us. I think we were packed in the helicopter. And we get there, and I hear one of my friends say, I said, Joe, it's awful gray over there. And I look up, I said, man, what's supposed to rain? It's supposed to be beautiful all day. What's going on? And, when you're out in the middle of a freaking Gulf, it can just rain out of the blue. I mean, let's just be honest about it. It happens sometimes. And we're watching these things, and it's, moving towards us, and we're thinking, well, shit, is there any cover on this island anywhere? Because we didn't bring anything because it wasn't supposed to rain. And the helicopter had already left, so we're kind of screwed. And so nothing. And back then, they didn't even have cell phones. Not any that we could afford it anyway. So we're sitting there in
Right.
this thing. You see it, and then all of a sudden, you start to see this point. Like, oh, it's the weirdest looking cloud I've ever seen. So all of a sudden, you hear everybody's taking pictures, and you just see where it is. It gets a little closer. You're like,
Oh, wow.
wow. And then you start noticing it's going way out back, and you're like, and you can see all around it because the sky's clear everywhere else. You're thinking, on a day like that, I think visibility was 7 or 8 miles. So I mean, right off the bat, you knew it was
Okay.
big. Well, the island we were on, I think, was 5 miles long and by 2.5 miles wide. And
Okay.
this thing comes up all of a sudden. We now know it's not a cloud. You can see the tip of it. It's just starting to get over the other end of the island. It's starting to cast a shadow. And we're like, what the? Everybody's using language I can't use here. Um, it's just nonstop. And still, all you hear is flashes, cams, video recorders going. Everybody out there taking pictures. It gets a little closer. It gets a little closer. It starts to come over us. So we're all like zombies. And out of
We're all craning
nowhere,
up.
oh yeah, out of nowhere, here come 5 Jeeps. Boom, over the sand, over the dune. Have no idea where they came from. Not a clue where they
Must
came
have been a base there.
So they wrestle everybody up. They start seizing on equipment, handcuffing everybody, and this truck came along, picked us up, and what was so weird is this truck. So there was a road under the sand because I couldn't figure out at first. There's no way this sand's soft. There's no way you're driving a big truck like this through this sand's going to sink. It's pretty deep before it gets going. So when they threw us in the truck, I realized when I sprung, I pushed it. It only felt like it was about this deep. There was something solid underneath my feet. So I was like, well, what
Gotcha.
is this? And so anyway, I'm not asking any questions at this point. I'm just shutting up because we'd been told to shut up. I can't even tell you how many times. Throw us in the thing. They bring us. We go down to the end of we get down to the end of the island, and they pull the thing back down, and it gets really dark, and you feel the truck start doing this, but it doesn't feel like it's going this way. It's rocking like we're going down. So this went on for
Oh,
I felt like 45 minutes. Well, the thing's only 2.5 miles long, 3 miles long. No, I'm sorry, 5 miles long. They don't take no 45
right.
minutes to cross 5 miles. Shit, you can walk across it faster than that. And I'm thinking, what the hell? So we
Right,
get
right,
it
right.
stops, all kind of bright lights coming in. You hear that guy screaming. Like, yeah. So I'm like, what? And I finally just looked up. I said, I'm ex-military, right? So let's just chill here for a minute. The guy just kind of looked at me. He said, really?
Yeah.
And I told him what I was part of. And he's like, oh, so you were special forces? I was like, yes. Yeah. So I don't, I don't want to rip your head off and shove it up your ass, but I'd like to know what's going on. And excuse my language, people, but it was graphic and I was hot. And he's like, well, that's not my duty. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. So, so we go in and put us, and they always, all these weird places, they always stick you in a cafeteria. I never understood that. Because the other stories we got involved in, they always stick you in a damn cafeteria. So anyway, we're sitting in this cafeteria. Guy comes out from the back, y'all hungry? I'm like, I said, I'm not eating anything here until I talk to someone. I said, what are you trying to drug us, kill us, whatever? No, I'm not eating. At this point, I'm not feeling any trust whatsoever. So we sit there for a while, and then I was dying of thirst too, and I was like, nope, it ain't happening. And so then I seen what the kitchen help was drinking, so we got the so we're talking. So all of a sudden, guys, well, y'all gonna eat us? I'm not. They're probably too bad. I say, well, look, anyway, they want to talk to you first. Anyway, I'm like, why? He said, aren't you the ringleader? I said, what do you mean the ringleader? He said, well, we've already run all y'all's faces. We know who you all are. Aren't you the ringleader? I said, and he starts telling me about the organization. I'm like, oh, really? By the way, at the time, I was working for who fund. Shh, don't tell me. I used to work for. But embarrassing. Anyway, so it's he goes. He says, well, they want to talk to you in the back, and he pointed this other guy. Come on. So we're walking back there for a minute. We go in this really nice office, and I'm sitting there thinking, I've been in underground facilities before. And underground facilities, the air really doesn't have any smell. It's because it's scrubbed. And I'm thinking, I don't smell food. I don't smell the odor. I don't smell nasty army guys running around and stuff. I don't smell anything. So I'm thinking, I should be on the ground. And then I looked at the guy. I said, we're on the ground. And he said, well, aren't you the smart one? And my friend looked, he said, well, I said, yeah, we're way on the ground, by the way. I said, it took 45 minutes to get down here, man. I said, we're way on the ground. We're not just underground. We're way under. And he's like, really? And he goes, what did he tell me? He goes, he said, what are y'all doing here? He said, I see you had fishing gear. He said, but you had an awful lot of camera gear. What were you doing? I said, well, a friend of mine had told us. I said, actually, a couple of people we know had said they had seen this gigantic, weird black thing out here floating around in the skies. So, being the stupid people we are, we decided to come out and see if we could find it. And guess what? Now we found it. This guy he starts laughing. Oh man! I mean, he's okay. What's going on with this stuff? Don't be getting weird over here from my phone. Something's weird down here. Yeah.
I think you might have cancellation on the app.
No, I'm getting a. You know what? Hold on. Let me drop out. Come right back. You sounded like Max Headroom to me. It's weird. Okay. It's weird, man. I mean, it sounded great a minute ago, and then I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, we're still. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in a second. So one of the things he touched on, there are certain types that team at ICAR, which is here he's coming back on, right? So I guess we'll just continue. There you are. He's back.
Yeah, you still sound like you're. Let me see, man. This is making me crazy. What's going on? I don't know if it's.
Is it? Let me check my out. Let me check the system. Check 1 2. Can you hear me? 1 2. Can you hear me? Okay. Don't mute yourself. Mute you. Let me unmute you. I can't unmute you. You're muted.
Oh, that might actually help. Yeah, but still, for some reason, I'm only getting like half your voice. It's really weird. It's like modulating when you talk. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I hear you talk, but then it modulates on the backside of you talking. It's really weird. I thought it might have been something over here, but everything seems like it's broken.
Yes. Same here. I don't hear what you're hearing.
No, I know. That's what's so weird. It's making me crazy. I don't know why it's doing it.
I'll shut up. I'll let you talk.
No, well, no. Well, if it keeps it up, we're going to switch computers. I'll just go to the one next to me and use that one. But because maybe it's something. Because see, now I'm getting you double. I get you. He said okay. I went okay twice. I was like, see, freaking people. When you talk about aliens, what happens? You see, look, y'all heard he sounds like a freaking now he sounds like one of them when you go guns. I'm gonna have to switch to computers and see if that's what this is. It sounded just weird as hell. What's that, Frankie? Do y'all hear it? You're hearing something? You know what? Hold on. We're gonna be right back.
Okay.
I might have to kick this out of this one. Hold on a second.
Okay, no problem. So while he checks that out, types before, which were the humans and the grays, typical Charles was tall, which I had witnessed myself. We talked about that last Friday, I believe, and it was on the flip side of the news. And it's fascinating to for me, and I'm sorry if my voice is modulated because of promoted, which I don't get. It's a very professional system, but one of the interesting things. So because what Joe has mentioned through icon seeing is not seeing multitudes and species that interact with us directly, through abduction, to government, what have you. But then we go to I'll talk about this. To Joe about this Elena Danan, her very experience, and kind of. And there it is. Let's try another one. Okay.
Oh yeah, you got something on your end. It's on your end because it's doing it over the stereo.
It's on my end.
Yeah, it's doing it over the stereo. I'm on the stereo now. I swear, I'm a whole different computer. You can tell by the background. I don't know what it is. It's something weird.
Let me try something.
You might have to reboot.
So I turned off my supposedly big pro mic. I don't know if I sound super tinny or what, but
No, but I can hear you. Let me turn you up. Say something.
Okay, that's good. Well, let me pop my headphones in on this thing.
There.
And no, I can't hear you at all. Oh, great. This sucks. All right. Well, screw it. I'll just listen to you like this. That's fine. Well, I guess we're going raw. I hope there's no.
It happens sometimes. Well, I'm not even nowhere near where I'm usually at. So.
Do you want to go back to your other one, or?
I guess I can give it a try. Hold on. Let me kick out of here.
Okay. So when Joe gets back to his other mic here, we'll talk to him about the whole Elena Danan thing as well. But first, let's have Joe finish his story. I can't hear you yet.
Okay, now you should be able to hear. And I reached over and muted it so we didn't get 5 trillion. Now I'm getting double audio. That's weird. Okay, let's try it again.
Lost you. Oh, there we go. I hear you now.
Yeah, no. So this. We're sitting there. This guy's telling us all this stuff, and now I'm getting feedback. I can hear myself. Where am I at? I'm not in here anymore, right?
Oh, hold on. That might be on me. Let me kill the echo here. No, this is on me. Let me kill my echo thing. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. We got you now. Oh, yeah, that's much better. Okay. Hey, what's that, Jack? Sometimes audio stuff goes wacky. It's why it's live radio, my friend. I'm just telling you, it's live. If it's pre-recorded, you'll never hear this stuff. But when it's live, it happens sometimes. Anyway, so we're sitting there. This guy's just, he's interrogating us, basically, is what he's doing. And he looks up at me. He says, well, I guess I'm wasting my time when you want it. He said, you were trained not to resist. I said, dude, I'm an AEAT, Advanced Avionics Specialist. He said, yeah, I already looked at your record. Don't bullshit me. I said, that's what I am. I said, He said, yeah, you were also a plane captain aboard the USS Nimitz. He said you were trained out of San Diego Special Forces, and then they shipped you off to the Nimitz because they weren't doing anything at the time to do some other kind of training. While you were there, they made you a plane captain because the guy said you loved it so much it was like orgasmic for you. His words, by the way. He says, I see you. He said, I see you went to after school for advanced avionics and advanced electronics. He said, what? Just learning it wasn't enough for you? You had to know everything? It's like, yeah, well, I wanted to tell him good. Anyway, so he goes. He said, and I see you got out and got your bachelor's when you got out of the Navy and all. He said, in science, which was, of course, advanced avionics, electronics, because that's what and it technically, it's honorary because Well, he says it's not, but because I had to go take the test. So they had sent me a test to take, just to see where I was level. And I took it, and the guy said, you could be an instructor, right? So they worked a deal. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. This guy's going on. He said, what you've seen is extremely classified. He said, we don't have to let you out of here. I said, you do know there's 14 of us, right? And at least 60 people that want to know where the hell we are. I said, not including the organization of MUFON, who knows we came out here to look for a UFO. And he just looked at me.
Damn.
Jesus Christ. He said, he looks at me and goes, you got to answer for everything. I said, no, I don't. I said, I'm just telling you so you know. And I was just newly married by 5 or 6 years or so. And he's like, what am I going to do with y'all? I said, would you always put us in the non-disclosure agreement? He goes, yeah, see, you're already under 3. I said, have I broke them? No. I said, you see my clearances class? He said, that's you. What am I going to do with the rest of these guys? He said, nobody's going to believe them if they run their mouths. I said, why are you even worried about it? They're nutters, man. He said, and they're all like professional careers. They're all pretty well-respected people. He said, okay. He said, I'm gonna get an agreement for y'all to sign. It's one of those agreements that if you don't adhere to, we don't fine you, we don't put you in jail, we pick you up and drop you in a hole in Area 51, and that's the end of that. He said, well, they like threatening you at Area 51, by the way, because they know once they got you there, you're just screwed. There's nobody gonna even try to look for you after that. And so then they decided that we may have been contaminated, made everybody go through all of these. Oh man, they did everything you could think of, man. It's probing you. It just was nonstop for like 2 days. They had the doctors there.
Did you get the full decontamination protocol?
Oh yeah, whole 9 yards. And I'm thinking none of the soldiers had to go because no, this was just to be a what, because nobody else went through. It's just us. I was like, okay, yeah, right. fine. So then he said, well, hop on the tram. We're going this other part of the base. We get on a tram, we're riding, I don't know, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Tram's cruising pretty good, too, probably 50, 60 miles an hour. And we get there. He said, okay, get out. See the elevator over there? He said, there's a Marine waiting for you there. He's going to take you up, and they're going to start working on your discharge papers. I was like, okay. Man, you're going up. You get up it felt like about 30 or 40 floors, and then all of a sudden there's light. Windows going by. So we come walking out. Can't tell you where we are here, but anyway, we'll just say it's in the building in downtown Tampa where certain groups work at. That's where we were. And we came out the elevator, and all these paperwork was there. We had to sign and all kind of stuff, and they fingerprinted everybody, pictured everybody, and made sure everybody understood what their agreement was and all of that stuff. And then so I look over at him and I said, well, what about our equipment? He said, you might get it back. Probably not, but you might. He said, probably a lot of it was destroyed. I was like, what do you mean destroyed? I'm thinking, man, I had an expensive 35 millimeter camera. I said, what are you in? Some lenses. Back then was probably $4 or $5 grand. I was like, get out of here, man. He's like, nope. He's like, and you know what? We never seen any of that stuff either. We did get 2 recorders back that made this weird chirping sound, but other than that, we never saw anything else. And it was just so surreal. And what was weird about it is I figured, okay, like 3 days passed. It was like 10. Move on to the guy who was running at the time, Montaldo, actually had called the local PD to look for us because we've been gone 10 days.
Really?
Any contact. Yeah. Well, it's there's no daylight. There's nothing down. I mean, it's just some weird lights, and that's it. I mean, that's all it's on is light. There's no nighttime, no daytime, And they took, what else was funny? Yeah, they took our watches.
Really? Did you notice if anything had happened to your watches?
No, because whatever. Oh, no. You think they didn't give us some things back? And I had a Seiko, nice Seiko. I think I paid like $800 for the damn thing back then. And nope. He said, nope. I even petitioned for it. I even wrote after we were out because I wanted my damn watch back. And they're like, nope. The guy said, we can't seem to find it. It must have been misplaced. So I'm assuming, and it's a big assumption, whatever this thing that passed over us was damaged to watches. But there was so much else going on. I never really noticed. I never looked down to see what time it was. If I did, it was subconsciously, and so I must have not been paying attention. Because you know what, I did notice once or twice that it wasn't glowing. Once that dial gets in the sun, it gets any kind of darkness, and instantly gets this big green glow to it. I don't remember seeing any of that. The whole thing is just weird. It was just weird.
That
And
sounds like
when
St. Elmo's fire.
yeah, it was strange. But in the end, they let us all go. Almost everybody in the group except for me and one other guy, two other guys actually quit and never got involved. Still, even to this day, won't even talk about aliens or UFOs.
Okay.
Had enough. Didn't
How
want to get
high in the
involved.
sky was this?
Oh shit, dude, it was so loaded you could feel the pressure of it coming by. I'd say 300 to 500 feet. It was creating
Over the
on the back
island? Oh my
over the
God.
island because on the back side of it, as it came over, it was creating a back swirl, and you could see it because it kind of stopped once it got over. It's about halfway, and you could actually see like a back swirl. It was picking up the sand and holding it, and then just floating it back, not just dropping it, just kind of floating it back down. Whatever the engines were, I have no idea. It had to be some type of gravity drive, magnetic drive, because you could feel a force, but it wasn't anything that hurt us. And that's probably why they took the watches right there, because it was if a magnetic or gravity drive, it's screwed with the watches, and it might have left a residual residue behind because of it. I don't know, and I don't. I can tell you this: it wasn't ours because of the size. Um, even though our government does make triangles, as far as I know, we have none that big. That thing is just huge.
That's
How it was
great.
even, why it was even here inside our atmosphere is beyond me. I imagine they probably use it as an underwater base because it was coming out of the Gulf. I'm sorry, out of the Gulf of America, so nobody writes to me. Um, but anyway,
That's official now.
it's official. I know. But anyway, out of the Gulf of America, it was coming out of there. I know people, y'all don't know what the Gulf of America is yet, but you're going to learn. Anyway, it was coming out of there, somewhere out of there. It came out because this is what's so weird about it. So we're out there taking beautiful pictures. It's beautiful. I mean, it's 10-mile visibility in any direction. You don't see this thing anywhere.
Beautiful.
And then all of a sudden, you see this big gray spot, probably 5 or 10, maybe 15 miles off the edge of the island. Where did that come from? Because, I mean, you should have seen it coming up. I mean, everybody was watching, and it was just there. And then, as the more we talked about it, the faster it seemed to go. It was just strange because it was just kind of sitting, and then it's kind of like tilted and was moving forward, which was another weird thing. And then it just started picking up speed from that point forward. I was like, well, okay.
Huh.
So I'm thinking maybe it just floated up out of the water and was just sitting there waiting for orders, and then it just took and started heading towards us. But what possible interest could they have? I mean, what harm could we be? A bunch of idiots with cameras. If we wouldn't have came over, we would have never even known. We'd have just walked around the island, went fishing, hung out, got a tan, popped some brews, had something to eat. Just been a bit of a little vacation day, man. But actually, been 2 days. Actually, it's going for 2 days, but I guess that wasn't going to happen. And they didn't. But it was weird. Some stuff, like he gave me back my 45 I had with me, and I had a 45 and a 380 with me. He actually gave them both back to me. I had a 380 tucked down on my boot, and that was the funny part. They took us through all this bars in the base, and I'm sitting in the cafeteria thinking I got a 380 just with a 12-round clip stuck in my boot. I'm thinking, oh shit, should I just tell these guys? or not? And I'm thinking they should have been like some alarm system or something, some way that caught this thing, because I'm walking all over. And I forgot because when we were in the guy's office, he said, don't think, Joe, we don't know there's not a gun in your boot, my friend. And I looked at him like, no, there's not. He said, don't even think. He said, and since we're going to let you loose, he said, I instructed him to give you back your 45 because I had a 1911 nickel plated, really pretty gun a friend of mine had given me. And it was a collector's item. It was a good friend of mine had given it to me, and I had it with me. And I usually didn't take it out in the field. It usually stayed at home, and I brought one of the other guns with me. But I said, I paid some buckaroo bronze, I bring it with me. So, but they didn't have any problem. And most 3 or 4 of us were carrying guns, and they didn't say anything about that. None of the camera equipment got. No. I said there was 2 recorders, and I think Bruce said they returned his I guess you could call it a laptop. It was like one of the very first type laptops. It was like this thick.
Oh,
Had a screen this big on it.
had a
It's,
about that big.
had battery life of like 2 hours or something. It was sad, but
Yeah,
I guess you could call
for
it
sure,
that.
for sure.
But it was just so strange. And then when because I started asking, I just started asking questions nonstop, and everybody's like, "Shut up, shut up, shut up! They're gonna lawsuit. Why don't you?" And then I turned and looked at him. I said, "Why don't you go put them in a room somewhere, and you and I can talk?" He said, "I'm not gonna tell you anything." I said, "Look, we both know that was an alien spacecraft. Don't bullshit." I said, "I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. So
Yeah.
what's going on here?" And he said, well, why you don't think it's ours? I said, "Really, dude? 3 miles long, 3 by 3 by 3, 2 miles thick. And how the hell we're keeping this thing in the air? Would you like to tell me that? That's enough power to power New York and LA, man. What's going on?" He started laughing. He said, "You're an ass, aren't you?" And it's like, and I said, "What exactly branch of the military are you?" I said, "I don't really see any insignias." I said, "You don't look like Navy, Air Force, Army." He said, "We're special branch." I said, "Oh, the special people." I said, the men and dumb people. I said, "I got you." He said, "You just want to go to Area 51?" I said, I told her, I looked up, I said, "I've already been there, man. It's nothing special." And his lieutenant had to leave because he started laughing, so he had to leave. He's like, "I gotta go, sir." He's like, "Yeah, I know you gotta go. Get out of here." He just couldn't hold it in anymore. First of all, he's probably never heard anyone talk to his boss like this, his colonel, at the entire time. He's just an ass.
That's weird.
And he's like, "Well, why do you want to know so bad?" I said, "Well, they're visiting our planet. Apparently, they're screwing with our people." I said, "I want to know." He said, "Who are you going to tell? The people? Nobody's going to believe you." I said, "The people who've had experiences will believe me." I said, "The rest of the world doesn't matter if they believe me, does it?" And I said, "They'll find out when the time comes." He said, "What do you think they're here for?" I said,
Yep.
"Oh." I said, "You got money?" He started laughing. I said, "No, I only talk for that kind of stuff for money, man." He's like, he said, "You know something we don't." I said, "I probably know a lot of things you don't. That's just not the point." He's like, "Yeah, I was told you could be an ass and we're very witty." And I was like, "Well," I said, I'm going to always appreciate and remember this experience, right?" He's like, "I bet you are." Then he bring us to dinner. He goes, "And remember, you can't talk about this with no one." It's like, I said, "For how long?" He said, "Forever." I said, "That's not going to work." I said, "Forever is not going to work." He finally goes, I think he said, "All right, we'll put 22." I think they put 20, was it 20, like 24, I don't know, 22 years or something on it. And I thought it was going to be like 35 because they like to do that 35 thing. Actually, they can do that 36 thing. And, but I slipped up one day on Wake Up USA back in 1990 something, not that long after it happened. And I thought for sure, oh, shucks, I'm in trouble, man. Because I was talking to, who was I talking to? Alfred Weber. And we were talking about something. And I said, we went down to investigate this thing in the Gulf. And I was telling him, I said, oh, then I remembered about halfway through it, I started cussing. Jeffrey said, "You're not supposed to cuss." I said, "I know, but I just effed up, man. They're going to come be knocking on my door later on now." And, but what I got a letter. I got, so on your security clearances, they put just a mark to let somebody know you either breached or came close to breaching your security clearance, because security clearances are for life, but they can be taken away. And I never understood. I said, "Well, once you're out of the service, why don't they just cut it?" He said, "No, they don't do that." He said, "They're for life." He said, "At any point you do know, because you have that, they can just drag your ass back in for whatever reason." And he says, "Yours is so high, they could make you a spy." I was like, "That's not going to happen." I said, "That's just not going to happen." And I said, "That's not something I'd be good at." He said, "Yeah." It was funny. I mean, they were interesting people, and it's like the guys, when we finally got the guys out of Area 51 to talk, we harassed these guys in this. A friend of mine had brought a PA with him, and he was harassing the guys in the booth nonstop. Then he started talking about their mama, so finally one of them came out. The guys, that is not very nice. And the other guy came and he said, "We're not supposed to see you. We're only supposed to come out here if we're going to shoot you or arrest you. You know that, right?" And I said, "I'm not saying anything. There's no voices going on with the PA." He's like, "Yeah, your mom was fun last night." He's like, "Dude, we're going to go put you." He said, "We're going to drag you past line 2 and drop you off, and let the big boys come take you." But they came up. They came up to the fence and so they talked with us for I don't know, about 45 until they talked for about 40 minutes, maybe 45, and then a truck showed up on the hill behind us, and they
Whoops. And then it was time to shut up.
went. Well, I mean, they had their radios on, so they could have radioed them, but he just popped up there, some gray looking Dodge Ford. You could even, I mean, Dodge truck. You can tell what it was, and he just sat there for a minute, and they just, well, we gotta go now. And they started. People, if you go down to
When
Area
it
51,
comes to these, I'm sorry, dude. When it comes to these different species out there, where do you land on Elena Danon's stuff?
I have to go back and read through my notes. To be honest with you, I try to keep
You
many
know what? I can put
people.
up a slide if you have.
Yeah, I try to keep as many as I can in my head, but when I start adding my own in,
Yeah.
it gets ridiculous.
Yeah. So you can't see this too well, but it's.
Oh, I know I can blow
it's
it
the
up.
map.
So, ladies and gentlemen, by the
Okay.
way, if you look to your bottom of your screen on your right for StreamYard, you can actually blow this up. StreamYard. If you're watching this that way, if you're watching this on YouTube and all that, you can't too. But great. I'm sorry.
So this is Elena Danon's map of every single species she said she has knowledge of because of her implant and her talking to the humanoid aliens. So, but it's it's a fascinating thing, and she has about I'd say close to 50 something up there, and she
So
also has their affiliations.
it's a
Yeah.
good chance this is disinformation for two reasons. One,
Okay.
aliens don't give you implants; humans do. There's no need for a gray or reptilian or human to give you an implant. They can track you telepathically. They don't need implants. They can control you telepathically to give you implants. So, but the people who do need implants is us. It's the only way we can track people. It's the only way we can control people is through implants. So there was a guy in the 1996 who put a chip in his brain to see if he could record stuff and do stuff. The chip worked perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So the government realized that you can use that to put memories in. Now, the way the government does, when they do a military abduction, the way they put your memory in is a combination of a couple of things. They use hypnosis, they use sodium pentothal, sodium mannitol, and they use a telepathic scan, a latent telepathic scan by a telepath. That's how they reprogram you. So it's
I
a
missed
good
some
way
of
to
what
do
you
it.
just said regarding.
Okay, so
One more time.
Okay, so they use it's sodium pentothal, sodium mannitol, hypnosis, and they use a telepath who does a passive scan on you, and they can use that the three things to adjust what they want you to know. So they start talking to you,
Is this
and then
the person who's a psionic?
and then, well, the telepath as they're talking to you.
Before,
Wait, say that again.
well, we just heard recently about a piece of personnel on UFO recovery teams called a psionic, which is basically a telepath, basically.
So why would there be UFO But first off, why would there be a UFO recovery team? Do you honestly think that any extraterrestrial race would let us have any of their technology? Really? Would we let the Russians or the Chinese have ours? And no, we would not.
Yeah, yeah. So what are we recovering, if nothing, if anything?
We're probably not recovering anything. So it's like Ketzberg. Everybody always said Ketzberg was an alien. Ketzberg was not alien. Ketzberg was Russian. So, and there's other things that have been called alien that is not extraterrestrial. It's ours. Not ours meaning us, meaning somebody else's, but it's not ours. It's also not extraterrestrial because let's be honest, you're an advanced race, and you're out there. You come to Earth, and for some reason, something happens. Even though you cross the entire cosmos without even an incident, you get to Earth and you crash. First off, if you go by what they say, the aliens have a worse flight record than the FAA does. By far. I mean, by far. So I'm just trying to help people understand this. Yes, I want people to understand because it's not what people think it is, and they've been coming here a long time. So how come they came here for 2 million years and never crashed a spaceship? But for some reason, in the last 50 years, they've crashed over 100. Come on, man, give me a break here.
Yeah.
None of that makes not even a lick of sense. And why would they let us curious idiots keep it unless they want us to have it? So, in the case of Roswell, that ship was given to the Germans somewhere around 1900, 1901, 1905, somewhere up in there. The Germans tried like hell to make something out of it. And from 1911 to 1916, they built all kinds of saucer-looking things. They built a saucer boat. They built a saucer tank. They built a saucer plane. None of them was worth a shit, but excuse my language, but they still built them all. So what they say happened, when we recovered the scientists at the end of World War II, we took that saucer to Roswell. We're the ones who flew it. We're the ones who crashed it. And there's two ways of knowing this. One, there was an escape pod launch. That's where you found the graves. The thing that broke up all of Mac Brazel's ranch. That was not That was not an alien spacecraft. That had to have been something delicate because of the way it broke up. So escape pod, maybe a shuttle or something. Yes, that makes total sense. Besides, the debris field was way too small for a saucer. So Aurora, New Mexico, bam. They found another saucer there. That's where they found the saucer with 4 bodies laying on the outside that looked like humans. They said they were melting from radiation, but they looked like human bodies. That's what the two Boy Scouts and the scout leader said they saw. And then there was other reports after that. And then they didn't talk about it anymore. They just talked about Roswell because that's where the shit was. But it wasn't that it crashed. Some laser brought it down, a radar brought it down. We had the damn thing. And the Greys were actually trying to show us, look, you dumb humans, and no, apparently a stupid humans couldn't figure it out, and we crashed it. And by crashing it, we killed 2 Greys and maimed another one. I mean, they were actually trying to say, look, we're just trying to give you an idea of what's going to happen, because this was probably the lowest. This is probably one of their things from, like we talk about 1950 Chevys. This is probably one of these things, something that's out of date. They don't use it anymore. They're trying to show humans, look. We want you to understand. We're not going to take it apart for you, but we're going to show you how it flies, and then you can start the backward engineering. Well, you know what? That never worked. But we did backward engineer the crash stuff from the shuttle because we got fiber optics. We got, according to the Roswell paper, if you ever look at the clip they cut, it looked like aircraft aluminum, fiber optics, and a microchip. And the microchip looked like a chip you'd see today. So, which means that the entire computer generation we got from the extraterrestrials. Without that crash, we would probably not even have computers today. Not the way we think of computers today. That was like a jump for us. That was an evolutionary leap for man in ways. Yeah. So, and people get so mad at when I talk about it, but it makes much more sense than the original thing. So, what happens to ufology is they get caught in these things like Betty and Barney Hill or Roswell, and they don't think it through. If you've got a craft that's going to cross through the cosmos, even if it has inertial dampers and shields, it's still going to be built out of something that's probably not going to disintegrate on impact. It's probably just going to make a hole in the ground. It's not going to have any seams on it. It's not going to have rivets or anything like that. It's probably going to be molded in one piece. So it's not going to be like something that's going to break up into a bunch of little pieces when it goes. And if it does break, it's either going to disintegrate or break like in half or something. Just like an aircraft carrier, it's not an impact. An aircraft carrier is not going to break into a bunch of little pieces. It might make it 2 or 3 and break and sink, but that's about it. Just the sheer mass of it's not going to allow it to happen like that. So, I tell people all the time, it's one of the good things about having a bachelor's in science, and it's another good thing about having my degree, knowing as much as I know about airplanes and aircraft and all the good things that go along with it, aeronautics. It helps me to understand things, and then using common sense, like with the crashes. Okay, the Texas airship was not an alien craft; it was something else, though. It might have been somebody that had picked up some technology that was using, and it might have been alien technology because whatever was in that well was killing people. Some people think it might have been radiation. It might have been the first attempt of a radioactive blimp. Could have been. It was the right time frame. I don't personally know why they were doing that, but they did. And now whatever's there seems to have dissipated or gone away. But it's like what is it? What is that ranch? Skinwalker Ranch. So most people don't know this. The military used to own Skinwalker I was there for 3 weeks when I was in the military. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
first, yes. So the military owned it though, and they're the ones who sold it. And I've always been so. We'll talk about why they owned it, but it has to do with counter mutilations and some other stuff. But so that particular thing is downrange from one of the testing areas where they used to blow up nukes, and there still is radiation contamination there. There still is, even to this day. So we were there. They had us walking around with these scanners. They were basically Geiger counters, basically what they were. But they had another little piece on the side of it that did, I don't know what it did. It did something else. I think it did ions or something. But so you're walking around, and when you seen the thing, it went over like 9, it will turn around. But that was before the day of the glow badges that started changing colors when you started getting irradiated. They gave me those when I was in the And but anyway, you'd start ticking. So everywhere you went, you had to make a count. So they were making a map of the area. And then we found this underground, underneath this house, we found a room. I don't know what it was used to be used for, but it was there. And then after that, they took us all off and said, I think they put the property up for sale. Actually, I think it had already been purchased, but they were just clearing it to make sure there was nothing they could get sued for, basically. That's all I can think of. But we did not experience not even one paranormal event while we were there. I was so sad when I learned later on that it was Skinwalker Ranch. I'm like, well, that sucks. Why didn't we get to experience anything while we were there? And we were everywhere. I mean, we were all over the freaking place, man. Yeah. You name it. We were walking a little cave and stuff. We found all kind of weird stuff out there, but nothing I would consider supernatural. Now, radiation does funny things to things. It can make brains, it can make you see things, plus it can make things mutate. So you have a combination of stuff that could have been going on out there. But the reason it's funny for me, and this helped me later on when I was developing a theory about Linda Mouldy Howe's cattle mutilations. So what is a cattle mutilation? What's it do? Who's mutilating cow? What, have the Greys got a taste for cow tongue or something? I've always been curious. Was it reptilians? Maybe maybe reptilians are doing it. My biggest problem is, first off, if you're a gray reptilian human, why aren't you taking the whole cow? Why you're going to sit there and do this on the ground and not take the whole cow? That's little. Just didn't. I'm thinking, well, maybe they just wanted to do it real quick. Then, they sucked all the blood out, and everybody said, oh, we don't have the technology. We haven't had a technology to do that since like 58, since the vacuum pump was invented. I hate when people say, well, we've had a field laser since, I think, 69. I'm like, come on, people, learn what's going on in your own country. So, and there have been skid marks found. This is what bothered me the most. It wasn't the fact, there was two things that appeared to me when I started investigating this. One, almost every place there was cattle mutilations, there had been nuclear tested somewhere within 100 miles of the location. Almost everywhere. And remember, almost all cattle mutilations are east of the Mississippi River and really do not appear around the rest of the world except for South America, and 2 of them were busted as hoax. But still, for the majority of them, they're west of the Mississippi River, which is where the majority of nuclear testing was done, was west of the Mississippi River. The body, the parts removed from the inside of the cow is where radiation would accumulate the fastest and the most. So that's the part you'd be wanting to take. So you suck out the blood so there's not a big mass. You take out those body parts. But do you know why the cows were left behind? You know why there's not a big stink about cattle mutilations? Because the cows are insured. And if you got the cow, you can collect the insurance. If you take the cow, you can't collect the insurance. No one in all this investigation never even thought about that. No one did. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. I mean, these cows are worth between $3 and $10 grand, and somebody just came out and did your cow. Well, as long as you got that body, guess what? The insurance company got to pay, even if it's vandalism, which is what the insurance company said. They still had to pay. Now, it was funny. Almost, and this makes it even worse. Almost every cow that was taken was on an insured property. How can aliens know that? I mean, really, give me a break here. This is not rocket science. But anyway, but that's my job. It's always been my job in the field is to correct things so that people can look at them in a different way and then say, okay, well, let's try this. Maybe this will take us further down the line. But I'll shut up now. Maybe it's cool.
So basically, it was radiation testing, and the ranchers got the cash in on an insurance grab without being
Yeah,
involved.
well, so, but it was more important than that. The government does not have to tell you we were testing for radiation. Oh no, it's aliens stealing cows. They got nothing to do with the government testing for radiation, right? And even worse, some of them, where there was a lot of them, where we're in a particular area where we had tested something like 36 nukes. So they were really worried about ground contamination. And this is the easiest way. The cows are eating daily. You let them go for a couple of years, you come test them. You don't have to test a lot of cows. 1 or 2 cows is plenty. So that way you're testing the water, the food, the ground, everything, just by testing that cow. And you don't have to admit to anybody that you're looking for large amounts of radiation, do you? No, you don't. It was flawless. It was when I first sat down and figured it out, I was like, well, Jesus, this was perfect. The government can do its testing, because we always wondered, all of us who were in the electronics field always wondered how the government was testing the areas, because we know that there's still radiation contamination in some of these areas. So we always, because some of the half-lives are 100,000 years. So we've always wondered, how are they maintaining and making sure they're not getting into food supply and water supply? And then, of course, here comes cattle mutilation. Perfect. It was just perfect. I mean, it was like, you couldn't ask for a better way to test for it. And I was like, no way, man. I was talking to a friend of mine about, we was on a flight coming back from a conference, and he goes, Jesus, Joe, you should get a Peace Prize for that one. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It was just, but it was an awakening. Oh, Linda Mulhall got so mad at me, she wouldn't even speak to me.
I was going to ask you about her.
No, she got mad. And she goes, oh, well, there's a sac around the heart. They take the heart out the sac. I said, this is bullshit. The hearts are rarely taken. I said, I went back and checked all those cases you said that happened, and that ain't what happened. And that's another thing. You go back and actually check the cases. Let's just say there was some fudging going on. Leave it at that. I noticed that in a lot. Just like with the Betty and Barney Hill case, I noticed there was some fudging going on. Like we talked about Kathleen Malford. Because they need to be able to sell a book or write something or change something.
Right.
And Linda Howe made her career in cattle mutilation. She should be grateful I wasn't paying attention those early years. I was off doing something else. Because I know I gave a lecture, and I was in California, gave a lecture, and the whole audience just got quiet. They were like, you could tell they were trying to work it through their head if I was right or not. And I said, well, it's just something for y'all to think about. I said, it doesn't really matter. I said, who's right or who's wrong? We have cattle mutilations going on, and obviously it's not aliens, because they're not eating the cows, they're not taking the cows, they're not doing anything with the cows. I was like, and I said, really and truly, I said, couldn't they just hold the cow up in the air and go and set it back down? Some of the stuff, and when you heard some of the forensics of it, you knew that this was humans were doing this. But research it's not, it doesn't mean anything to the ufology field if humans are doing it. It does, people. It tells you that there had contaminated areas our government was freaking worried about.
Oh, yeah.
Man. And then when you make them go check, and especially people who live in those areas, they're like, I'm moving, Joe. I was like, yeah, you should have been moving a long time ago. It's crazy, but you can see them. And they test, matter of fact, and some of them they test in lines. So they'll start like at a particular area in the state, and they'll work their way across on an angle and to wherever the other side was. And then if you go back
in
and
a
look
swath?
at the area,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah. So when you go back and you go back and look at the nuclear testing map, so you look at this, well, the mutilations were like this, and you go back and look at the blow up map. It's here on that side of it, like it's coming down behind it. So they're looking for which way the water and the wind flows, and they're testing those in, which I thought was a perfect thing to do. I mean, you can't blame the government now, can you? We know what you're doing, Uncle. And Matt, what was funny, I had live on the air, I had a guy call into the show. Well, he didn't call in, he broke in through the line. Our producers cussing him all over the place. He goes, hey, Jeff, stop talking about cattle mutilations. I'm like, why? I said, because I busted y'all. He said, maybe so, but stop it. I'm not going to stop it. He was mad, man. He wanted y'all to keep believing it was aliens. And even the people listening to the show after that were like, well, we know it's not aliens now. And I tell this to people all the time, but the government blames a lot of stuff on aliens. It's, easy. I mean, look at the not the SR-71, the X-117. Man, for like 5 years, people
Oh,
report these weird black triangles flying all over the place. And look at these weird new alien craft. And a friend of mine sat down and said, you know what? Let's look at where all the no-fly zones were. And sure enough, everywhere these things were being seen was in a no-fly zone. So we knew right off the bat, this is government. What government it was, what the government was doing, I couldn't tell you, but it didn't take me long. After I made some friends with Boeing Lockheed, it was a lot easier for me to find out stuff now. What's real, what's not real. It's always, besides, they always tell me the same thing. Well, you got to clear and stuff. You haven't tell anybody. Guess what? I was like, I know how it works. But it is nice, and it does allow them to talk to me. So it isn't. Somebody asked me if I was going to write a death book. I said, yeah, I will, but I said it'll never make it print. I said somebody will snatch it. He's like, you think? I said everything that has this stuff in my head will still be classified when I die. Here you do.
Right on. Let's pause right there. Let's do a station ID. And we'll be back in like 80 seconds. See you in a second. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Our symbol, the trident, gifted to us by the priests of Troy Xenos centuries ago when one of the first monster hunting teams out of Corinth battled a contingent of Vrykula Cass that had infested their temple. After the victory over the monsters, the head priest declared, "You are 3 lances acting as one, not unlike Poseidon's mighty trident of light. That would become our name, the Trident of Light, for the good we did and still do against the dark evils of this world."
Available at Amazon Books. Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, ask questions, and see what chilling paranormal stories we're following. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos.
I'm not allowed to talk about YouTube. I'm sorry.
Say again?
Michelle says I'm not allowed to talk about YouTube. I'll have to tell you after the show.
Okay.
I just want people who get into the field to think about things. Don't get caught up in the hubbub because there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of swirling around, a lot of things that are related, but some of them are not real. It's just, for me, I'm not even going to lie to you, the first 12 years I was in the field was just rooting through the BS. There was just so much of it. Somebody asked me about Ashtar Command. I said, I don't actually think that's what it's actually called. I think somebody just put it on there. I said, there is a council. It seems to be a growing council, expanding council. And it's weird. We didn't understand something at first because sometimes people say there's 7. The council is huge. God knows how many worlds are actually in it. But the ruling body, sometimes they'll describe it as 7, 9, 11, 13, 12, 15, 17, 19, 21. They just seem to be different sizes for different things. And I think that has more to do with whatever that meeting's about. Whoever's sitting there probably has more to do with what they're discussing. But everybody, and I mean everybody I know who's been there describes it the same way. When you're sitting, well, humans are not allowed to sit. You have to stand the entire time. So they're standing behind everybody up against a wall looking. If you look up, you see it looks like a drip came through the ceiling. Inside that drip, there's all these little capsules. These are all non-air, or I should say they're all fluid breathing. Whatever kind of fluid it is. I don't want to say water, they breathe through water or their oxygen because I really don't have any clue. I'm sure there's a lot of different types of rays. And then the rest of the thing is like a giant sphere. If you've ever seen Star Wars when Yoda's fighting the Emperor, when they're having the meeting, it looks like that. The things actually come off the wall when they're addressing the council. That's how it works. So whoever did that must have heard this somewhere before, because that's how it's described in life. And then and each part of the city itself is huge. They say it's probably bigger than Earth. It might even be bigger than Venus. Anyway, it's huge. It's sitting on on a giant planet somewhere, floats around on the planet, just moves around. It's a water planet. As far as I know, there is no land. This thing just moves around on top of the water wherever it's going. It settles wherever it's going to settle. And but the city itself, you've got the main center of the city. I guess where all the council and ruling body is, and then going outward, I guess it goes by first your rank in the council itself, and then each world gets its own little representation, like 3 buildings. It goes around, and so they maintain a group there all the time. It's like an ambassadorial corps, I guess, and a whole bunch of it. So it's strange when you hear people talk about it. And, but it is what it is. I mean, and they all talk about this giant floating city that's just floating around. It's these even the loneliest races there are probably 100,000 years more advanced. They're not millennial advanced like some of the, millions of years like some of the other races, but at least 100,000. Now the races that are right below us or right above us, you'll see them standing along the walls with us, like the black-eyed people. They'll be standing. They're about equivalent to us. They've been seen in human abductions, but people have actually talked to them. And they said humans have been seen in their abductions when they've been taken. From what I understand, they're basically us, just with big black eyes on another world. They're a lot like us, from what I understand. But on evolutionary and technologically, they're around the same as we are. And I always got confused by it because when I always heard black eyes, I always heard it was paranormal. I was like, oh no, it's ghosties or demons and shit. And I was like, well, I'm getting confused now. So that's why I always tell people be real careful. Sometimes paranormal crosses in ufology, sometimes ufology crosses in the paranormal. When we hear people talk about, when we hear alien abductions talk about black-eyed children, black-eyed people, they're referring to an alien race. They're not referring to a demon. When you hear a paranormal person talk about it, they're referring to a demon, but we don't know that because they may have been there to abduct that paranormal person, as far as we know. So it may not have actually been a demon. It might have just been what was going on, but there's no way for us to prove it. It's like a classic 101 abduction and a poltergeist. What's the difference? Everything's spinning around, everything's lighting up, everything's making noises. How do you know which one's which? I guess when you hear the voice, that still might be the freaking gray. I mean, I'm not. It's just weird. And there's other things besides that. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's freaky. There's a lot of crossover spots that we need to work on. Yeah. Some of my paranormal friends get upset.
It's interesting to bring that up because I had a couple of guests on a little while ago. Married couple, doctors, psychologists of all people, and they moved into a more spiritual aspect of psychology. It's like it wasn't just talking psychology. It was, let's look at your spiritual energy, not Reiki, but something similar to it. And when they regressed them, they would say, they would be experiencing, the clients would experience like some sort of demonic thing in there. That's how they interpreted it. But when they were regressed, they said they would see, for instance, reptilians. I mean, the big ones with the tails and stuff like that in a hellscape. And it made me, in their interpretation, these two doctors, they were dealing with alternate dimensional individuals. So not necessarily space aliens, but alternate dimensional aliens. Where do you stand on that? I mean, does this sound at all familiar in the stuff you've?
We're always really careful when it comes to dimensional, because, like, we know for a fact that the Greys can pull you out of this time and put you in a pocket dimension, hold you there as time goes by, and then take you and put you right back at the time they took you. So you may be going 6, 7, 8 weeks with them, where you're going no time, or even gain some time here. Well, at the same point, you know that there's other dimensions out there. Now, how many dimensions can we actually touch, and how many of them are rubbing against us? And what would be the effect? So this is where it's going to get a little squeaky when it comes to dimensions. And this this is a little bit of science to this, and of course, there's a lot of speculation to this. So everybody says the same thing when it comes to this. This is us. We're in a bubble, and we have a bunch of bubbles around us. And all at different points, the bubbles are rubbing against each other. That's where the veil touches the veil. That's the weakest point and the easiest place to see through and experience another dimension. Well, science says that dimensions only get different as they get further out. So the ones touching us are going to be a lot like ours. Like you might have long blonde hair in one of them. You might have purple eyes in one of them. It's not going to be dramatically different. You may have more kids or less kids. It's subtle things. It's not things that you think, oh my God, it's some kind of weird giant alien human. No, that you got to be out a lot more distances for that. So then it comes to, okay, so once science achieved that, then we know to see something like what they're talking about, a hellscape, then they had to be out 100, 150 straight out dimensions away. And I'm just guesstimating. It may be far more than that. So what kind of person can actually see that far? How do they? Because, so we're touching the veil here. Well, that bubble is touching the veil up here. And that bubble may be touching the veil down here. So how exactly is our brain navigating all of that along with everybody else? So I think sometimes what we do is instead of actually pulling from, say, a further away dimension, we pull from something else. Sometimes it may be from someone's head or something's head. It's not always a someone. Because remember, anytime you're crossing over, because when you start talking about crossing into other dimensions, there's also other things around us like the galactic consciousness and stuff like that. So those are also in levels and plane and dimensions. So it gets a little sketchy, weird exactly where we're going to end up. So I always tell people, take 99 grains of salt for every 1 grain you see. Because odds are what you're seeing is not what you think it is. Now, by saying that, I mean every now and then it does seem to work exactly what people are saying. But for the most part, I find out when it's challenged, it falls apart. So it's just, in those cases, you have to take them case by case by case by case by case by case to see. And there are people with gifts that can see across veils. I mean, quite a few contactees have the ability to see across veils, but usually not. So usually what they'll see is they could be sitting next to you right here and look this way, and they'll see their self or their father or someone else they know standing right across the hallway in the same room, just in a different dimension. But it's basically them. They're just walking around doing everything, talking to the kid, watching TV, whatever it may be. But it's still. So that's what I'm saying. So to get past that, I don't know. That's a long one, man. I mean, you're gonna have to have abilities. I don't think we're gonna reach for another 10 million years or so. I mean, that's a level of psychic ability that is far beyond anything we have right now. So I think sometimes we gather and we pull in. And then I found this out by accident. Sometimes we do shared consciousness. I don't mean the consciousness, the good consciousness on the other side. I mean our consciousness, sharing with others. What our brain starts doing is because it doesn't understand, it starts pulling from different consciousness. Then you end up with this, especially if there's someone else involved, you end up with this, I don't call it a dream because that's not what it is, but it's strange. It's weird to me because I think so much of this is in our head, and so much of this could be from somewhere else. Because if they're contactees and they're reptilian contactees, that means they have genetic memory. Contactees' genetic memory goes all the way back to the beginning. So if you're a reptilian contactee, you a lot of times out of nowhere you'll get flashes and memories of things that you feel like you've done or you're part of, or you're involved in. Of course, it's not you. It was probably somebody long before you even existed. But you don't actually know that, especially a human, because it's not something that we readily experience. I don't know. And in most places, reptilians are considered to be nice. So that's another thing that's weird. They're not really considered to be evil.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they didn't even get considered to be evil on this planet until Eve ate the apple. Because the snake told it to, because the serpent told it to. Before that, reptilians were revered as the bringers of life. Look at Kublai and all the Mesoamerican gods, even the Native American gods, and for that matter, even the African gods, the Egyptian gods. There was a lot of reptilians out there that were just part of being the bearers of life, the protectors of Earth. And that's what a lot of people call them, protectors of Earth, because I think think the human aliens, who were probably a part of our evolution in the beginning, were not considered protectors of Earth. I think they were considered more of like invaders of Earth. Reptilians, because they gave us sentience. Maybe it was in the sentience they gave us to want to protect them, because until the time of Christ, reptilians were protected. It wasn't until after the time of Christ that they became hit list again. It's strange just to watch the ebb and flow of these things and where they're going. Was it the grays that caused that? Was it just simply the time for it to change? Was it because Eve was told by the serpent to eat the apple? I mean, was that what flipped it? It's anybody's best guess, but something did. Because I mean, if you go, all you got to do is go back to the ancient world to see that they were loved and revered and wanted to have babies with them. Sorry, I don't have a baby. Spiky kid around, just smack my hand and stuff. Yeah, like, what the hell? Can you imagine a reptilian wife, 7'5", 280 pounds, grab you by your head? What you been doing today, Daddy? Nothing, baby, nothing. Okay. Let's skip that, I think. Yeah, hey, look, to each his own. I'm not hating Tim. My one of those sexy reptilian. I'm all like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, I don't know that I could pull that off personally.
Oh man, the reptilians are no good dogs, because out of all the aliens you hear people having sex with, it's the reptilians like 90% of the time. I'm like, really? And what gets me is so. Well, everybody tells me the same thing. So, so the first like 100 cases I got of this, I said, y'all are all crazy nuts. Like, go get a boyfriend. And well, I got some really nasty letters about it. And so I finally decided we're going to investigate. it. And then, there were some times you were like, kind of like, so then I realized, well, maybe it's not what we think it is. Let's do some hypnosis. We started putting people under, and it just turned out to be reptilians. I was like, what the hell, reptilians? I thought it was going to be the human aliens. Because, I mean, we've heard, stuff about the human aliens, just the sons of God and the daughters of man. I mean, that's pretty well written, and that's probably how the species started. But it looks like the reptilians are the one that gave us sentience, and gave us sentience. It's strange. It is definitely strange, but, you hear these people talking about this beautiful person they were with, and how stunning and gorgeous and beautiful they were. And then you'd put them under, and you say, well, tell me what their skin feels like. Oh, it feels like cool suede. Grab them by the face, open your eyes, and then you hear screaming because, they're looking at a big old monstrous reptilian. And it's not even that the reptilians are mean. They just think differently than we do. They're a tribal society. They're way more advanced than we are. They have genetic memory, so they know what their grandfather and great-grandfather all the way back did. It's an interesting society. Plus, they have open knowledge and open religion, so they're definitely a different society. And for humans, it's got to be like a field day, because you have access to their libraries. They allow the reptilian contactees access to different libraries, and there's, I think, 3 of them on Earth. The biggest part of the problem is you can only retain so much of that memory because our brains are this big. It's not so much the size of our brain as the shape of our brain. It'll change over time so we can absorb more information. Well, look at the grays. I mean, the grays head's this freaking big around, like this. It's tall and big. It's big around. The human aliens' heads they're a little bit fatter than us in the face because they're bigger than us, but their heads are about this long, and they're kind of tilted up a little bit. And you see that in the
Egyptian gods. Yeah.
And you also see that in the boarding of the Nazcan children. So we can see where at least 2 times, we see at least 2 times the human aliens got their ass in the middle of something. And I bet you it's more than that. And then if you go look at the Toltecs and the Mayans and Aztecs, you can see where the reptilians were all up in their business. Apparently the reptilians like blood sacrifices, or hearts at least. I don't know what all that blood sacrifice was about, but let's kill some people and throw them down. Can you imagine? So on a good day in the Aztec Empire, they take about 100 of them up the top of the stairs and just cut their hearts out and roll them down the stairs. And that's what they call a happy fun Saturday. Yeah, that's a good day. Or when they used to use the enemy's head to play that whatever version of basketball they played. I think that was mine. But regardless, there were the only good thing that come out of there was gold and chihuahuas, man. Other than that, I'm not sure.
If anyone needed a bowling league, it was them.
Yes. And it was so weird because the more we looked, the more the empire we found. This thing stretched from technically from North America. Actually, I'm pretty sure from somewhere in the United States where Pueblos were all the way down deep into South America, all
Well,
through
didn't they
Brazilian and
cover up
Colombian.
Alaska?
They're finding stuff that they're not quite able to explain yet. So it's interesting. It's like that when we talked about Admiral Byrd. I mean, why don't more people go to Arctic? And why is it illegal for us to settle in the Antarctic? And who said it was illegal? It don't belong to anybody. You can't own the Antarctic. So screw you. How you tell me I can't go down there? You can go. You take a tour and sail around it, but you can't go skating across it or nothing.
Right, right.
I,
And some
don't make any sense.
islands and shit around it.
Yeah, you can go up to the North Pole and track all over the place if you want. They don't care.
Oh yeah.
Russia might bitch a little bit, but nobody really cares. You go to Antarctica, oh, we're going to go camp and go, oh, no, you're not. You're not going walking. No, you're not. Oh, I remember the last group who was going to do this big Arctic trek. They said you couldn't go, you would disturb the penguins. Because the emperor penguins go in the interior and for a while, like 10 miles off from the shore or something, to stay with their babies. I'm like, well,
Okay.
so go around the emperor penguins. I mean, come on. Something over there they don't want us to see. It's all like it's. I mean, come on. There's actually parts of the Antarctic has no fly zone. Really? Why?
Yeah.
And who
Yeah.
dictates this? I mean, it's just like the UN says you can't fly over there. I mean, I'm confused at who's enforcing this. I don't want to find out, by the way, because somebody obviously is going to probably enforce it. But I don't get it. What is that, Christopher? Oh no, the Russians are down there, and the Americans are down there. I think the Chinese are down there too.
Yep. That's true.
Pretty soon, the Chinese are going to be on the moon if we don't watch out. Elon better get busy.
Didn't they already launch a couple of probes up there?
Yeah, Elon just sent 2 rovers to the moon to go for the new space missions. These are new rovers that we're going to be driving around in. They sent them up there. I think one was made by Boeing. I forgot who the other was made. One 6'6", 6x6, and the other one 7 foot. It sounded like decent sized rovers. So just see how they go cruising around on the surface of the moon. It's just more space junk on the moon, people. Everybody goes, we've never been to the moon. Well, then how come there's space junk there?
There's a
Go
lot
look for yourself.
But yeah, you get a powerful enough telescope, you can totally see our stuff up there.
Yeah, well, you don't have to do that anymore. So somebody said one day, well, Joe, you know they didn't go. I said, well, let me ask you a question. So before we get into all the science and everything, how did America get the Russians not to rat us out? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, we didn't go, they would have known. How come China didn't rat us out? Or India, Venezuela, Cuba, anybody, Iran, how come no one ratted us out if we didn't go to the moon? And I said, then on top of that, I think there was close to 450,000 civilians and scientists that worked on this across the planet because they had to use multiple tracking stations to track this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't any of them come forward and said that it was a fake?
Well, I'm confused on this point to a degree myself. I mean, I worked at NASA for a couple of years, and I know for a fact we built all this great stuff. But recently, and I don't know what the story really is, but recently, Aldrin in the last 10 years, 15 years, has been saying, we never went there. We never went there. We never went there. And
well, the only official person I know who said that was Buzz Aldrin, and I talked to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I talked to him in D.C. along with Edgar Mitchell. Edgar gave him all kinds. She said, oh, well, you didn't go? He said, well, give me a bonus. Buzz looked at him. What are you talking about? He said, oh, man, I want that bonus. You know, we all got a bonus. Everybody who went to the moon got a bonus. He said, so give me your bonus. He said, you didn't go. I want your bonus. He said, he said, oh, you telling me you didn't get a bonus? He said, you want my thing, so tell me how you didn't get a bonus. Buzz is like, he said, no, we didn't go here. And he always looks down when he says it. He looks down at the files when he says it. So I'm like, well, Buzz, I said, is that the one? Oh, I said, well, you were the one in the picture when the cat went walking across. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because, they got the picture of the lander where the cat's walking behind it. And he's like, no. I said, well, then I asked him, I said, well, did you call whoever was president in Russia at the time and say, hey, we're not going to go to the moon. Please don't tell anybody, okay? He almost peed himself. He was laughing so hard. He's like, you look at this differently than everybody. I can already tell because we got into a conversation. He said, and then at the end of the conversation, he said, well, no, of course we went to the moon. He said, but anytime anybody asked me, I said, well, why do you say that? He said, because I've been tired of being asked. He said, Joe, do you have any idea how many times I've been asked if we go to the moon? He said, if you watch it on TV, you should know we went to the moon. You shouldn't even have to ask me. He said, I've been asked so many times that it just started to piss me off. I was like, oh, okay. And Edgar started, wow, I didn't even think of it that way. Really? Honestly, I kind of understand because, in the fields that we're in, a lot of the ufologists and paranormal people, after they've been in 10, 15 years, they get aggravated a lot of times when you ask them the same question they've heard 100 million times.
Right.
Or like Travis Walton. I promised when I told Travis, I said, when you come on my network, because he was being interviewed by 5 different hosts over 2 months, I said, I promise you, no one on this network will ask you a question just you've been answered before. I said, that's impossible. I said, watch and say. And then him and I had a show. He's like, Joe, y'all really got y'all stuff together, man. I was like, because we didn't want to drive you crazy and ask you 100 million times about something we've already heard 100 million times out of your mouth.
Right.
I said, why ask you a question that we've already heard the answer to? I said, it's just dumb. I said, my audience probably already heard the answer to. He was a great guest. When I told him stuff like, there was an FBI agent in the woods with you that night, right? He said, yeah, I found out about that later on because you said something. and then, I started telling him other stuff like, the handoff and the people being from the CDC. And the more he thought about it, I said, there is no such thing as a one-time abductee, by the way, Travis. It doesn't work that way. I said, because when I asked him, I said, did you ever stop to think that they knew you were there? He's like, well, how would they know? I said, well, you're in a truck that squeaks and makes noise and bumping up and down, lights up and down in the sky. I said, they probably knew you were coming. I said, even without senses, they knew you were coming. He started laughing. I said, but tell me, you don't think they knew you were there? He said, they knew you were there before you got in the truck.
That's true. That makes
total sense.
sense.
You never thought one time while you got out the truck and all 4 of your friends stayed in the truck. No one else was brave enough to walk out the truck with you. I said, crazy guy alone would have probably been brave enough if something was holding him back. And I said, and why didn't they blast everybody in the truck? They blasted you in front of everybody. Why didn't they take the truck? I just blasted everybody in the truck along with them. I mean, they just have witnesses now. Why didn't they take them?
Right.
I said, because they weren't interested, Travis. They weren't contactees, but you are. And your dumb ass went and stepped out in front of him and said, hey, look, I'm here. Of course they're going to take you, dude. He started laughing. He's like, Joe, man, I don't like talking to you anymore. I was like, what? He's like, I don't want to start thinking about it like this, man. He said, no. It just drove him crazy. But you could tell though, no one had ever talked to him like that before, and it was fun for him because stuff he had never thought about. He'd been doing it for 20 years, and he was like, and every time I've interviewed him since, he's always like, you always there's different. He said, just do different interviews. Because Travis, I don't want to hear the same thing. I'm like you. I don't want to hear the same answer 50 million times. I'm not interested. I know the basic story because I brought him on one time just to talk about the freaking movie because it was driving me crazy because I had read the book and I'm like, well, what's this? Something wrong here. I mean, basically the whole half of the end of the movie is wrong, except for when they dropped him off. But and that's when I told him. I said, the aliens aren't the ones that dropped you off, right? I said the government dropped you off. And we had to talk about it. I said, well, you're the ones that said they were in a hangar and brought you these guys in white outfits. I thought that was just a movie. He's like, no. And I was like, well, that was a handoff. I said, for some reason, E.T. decided to give you, which I said they do every once in a while. They did with the Hills. I said, they just, every once in a while, I said, I wish I had a reason why they do it. I said, but they do. I said, from time to time, like Katarina Wilson, ooh, she get mad I use her name, but same thing. Well, she's ex-Air Force. They used to mess with her all the time. A lot of military people had been brought in for hypnosis because for some reason or another, government had found out they were contactees for however reason. And when they do, they bring them in for, they'll say, but usually contactees have a little stress in their life, so unless they've already dealt with it. So they'll bring them in for like hypnosis to help them relax. Well, they just put them under to find out what's going on. And a lot of times they'll put them under in front of an audience so the audience can see what's been going on with this individual. We stumbled across quite a few cases like that. But I wouldn't have, if it wouldn't have been for Katarina turning me on to the cases, I wouldn't have. It was 20, 25 years ago, but she turned me on to the cases. And I was like, and between her and Melinda Leslie, course, can't think of her name now. They're the ones that helped me get into Millab's full swing. What's her name? Turner, Dr. Turner. I can't remember her first name now. She really did the military abduction. She broke the mold of military abductions
Hmm.
and ended up with stage 4 cancer overnight. She was healthy, nothing was wrong with her. What is her damn name? Why? Sooner or later it'll come to me. But Carla Turner, she's the one who broke the abduction mold in
Wow.
the 90s somewhere. And I still got some of her stuff on file. When you hear her talk about it, it's scary, scary stuff. And then so Melinda calls me one night, Melinda Leslie, which I probably need to call her. I ain't talked to her about 4 or 5 years. It's she called me one night because I'd asked her if she wanted to be on Coast to Coast with me, and she wanted to do re-abductions.
Oh, interesting.
Military did, so she just wanted to change the title a little bit. So what happens here is somewhere along the line, Uncle Sam finds out that you're being taken. Usually they find out through psychologists who have been writing their parts and put them on a computer. They have a program that scans all of that. It's usually how they find you. Every now and then they just get lucky and stumble across somebody in the military who's a contactee for whatever reasons. Or sometimes it's even seen something weird might happen on a base and it may be connected to a particular individual. So every now and then they'll find it. So once the government knows that you're a contactee and abductee, they monitor you from then on. So, if they know you've been taken, a lot of times they're going to come retake you to see that because they're interested in a lot of things. I mean, a lot of times they're taking samples just to see what type of air has been interacting with your skin and your lungs.
Oh,
To see if there's any infections, any diseases, anything that they can identify that's extraterrestrial.
gotcha.
They do all kind of stuff like that. Then they put you under deep hypnosis, which they use a telepath for, along with the drugs we were talking about earlier. Really go deep scan to see what they can find out what happened. And they're interested because a lot of times the military, contactees will have information about how craft drive, how they operate, what type of engines they use, what type of fuel they use, stuff like that. Which the government's fascinated. It's nothing the government can't replicate it yet, but they're still fascinated by it.
Makes sense.
When you hear a contactee talk about driving a ship, it's telepathic. It's in telepathic form. And I think that's how we crashed the one in Roswell. I think the humans back then they probably needed to find contactees. They probably just had some ordinary humans. The Greys probably thought, oh, you know what? They're probably all telepathic.
Oh, you think it was a miscalculation on their part? That makes sense.
Somebody made a boo-boo. And, I tell people all the time, the Greys do make mistakes. There's lots of funny mistakes they've made. The best one ever, when I got this case out, this was the best case ever. So a girl in a girl in New York woke up one morning. She looked over next to her and she started screaming her head off. I mean, just screaming her head off. Wasn't her husband. Her bed, wasn't her bedroom. She's screaming, beating on this poor guy, no less. Just beating him. So the guy finally gets to calm down, wanting to know, you're not my wife, will you blank, blank, doing my blank, blank, blank in bed. So finally, she gets calm. He said, can I use your phone? He said, you're going to call the police. Call whoever you want. I don't care at this point. She calls home, and actually, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. It started in California and went to New York. But anyway, she calls home and she wakes him up, and the woman answers the phone and she's like, hey, who's this answering my phone? And of course, the husband wakes up and it's not the right guy. He starts screaming. So they swap wives. They put the wrong wife back at the wrong house. You're like, you got to be shitting me. How the hell did that happen? And what's funny though? When you see these two girls, they look a lot alike. I mean, they could be sisters. They look a lot alike. And somebody made a boo-boo. It was a great case, and we checked everything. We checked air flights, trains, buses, everything, man. We know. We checked with the neighbors. We checked with her work. The girl gave us a work number. She was at work that afternoon. It was crazy. It took the girl 2 days. It took them both 2 days to get home before it was all said and done. Luckily,
and you said one was in California, the other one was where?
One was in Los Angeles, one was in New York City. It was a crazy case.
Oh, God.
It was a crazy case.
That's crazy.
And then we had another case where a girl in Japan woke up one morning with a t-shirt and a pair of underwears. And when she went to bed that night, she was in a gown, pajamas and a gown. She had pajama pants on and a gown top. So she woke up in a t-shirt and underwear, and she was freaking out. Well, in the underwear, there was the name of the individual. So she starts internet searching, just she starts calling people. I mean, just randomly. It was crazy. And somehow or another, she finds this chick. Oh, that's how it was. The girl posted on Facebook. This is when Facebook first came out. That she had woke up in someone else's clothes, and everybody was giving her shit. And she took a picture of the clothes, and the girl recognized the clothes and wrote to her. And she said, "Are these yours?" She took a picture of this t-shirt and underwear, and she said, "How did you get?" They put them in, and it's crazy. They could even find each other. It is, but then we get a lot of people who get married because they said they were having relationships on board the ships. They recognize themselves instantly, and I can't tell you how many people when we go to conferences that meet each other for the first time know each other exactly what they look like, exactly what they act like. It's like they've been talking to each other for decades. It's just strange.
Crazy.
It just shows that there's relationships going on board these ships, and it also shows that we're spending more time on those ships than we realize. But now, since they can take you out of time, they can keep you there. You can have all kind of interactions, and they put you right back here. So, best I can tell, it's not adding or subtracting time on our life, which is kind of weird because you're actually existing for those days. But for some reason, I guess when they zip you back into time here, it puts you back at that time mark. By the way, it's just all guessing. As far as I know, you might be aging, and we will find out later on down the line.
Yeah.
20 years are knocked off the end of our life. Whoa, wait a minute here. There's something a little screwy with this. It's I don't know, but you get weird stuff like that. And then you've got, Dr. Greer is the one who started the 56 types of aliens. Was it
Yeah.
2000? And then, was it 2001, 2005 when he did that? What was the thing? But
Something like
I asked, as soon as I met him, I asked him, I said, well, wait a minute. I need some kind of proof other than doofball up there saying there's 56 types of aliens. I need something. I said, I've never heard of 56. I can't even go through history and find 56 types. I can't even find people who have seen 56. I mean, really, when we talk to people who have had contact, it's usually 6 or 7 types of aliens. Usually the 6 that we talked about earlier, that's usually what they see. And when they talk about craft, they usually see one of the 3 or 4 craft that we were talking about. Elongated saucers, triangles, regular saucers, orb spheres, things like that. They see lots of them, but they don't really see anything else. So I don't suggest a bunch of other aliens. I suggest that there's a limited amount of aliens on our planet. And then how do you keep 56 types of aliens quiet on Earth? I mean, that means at an interaction at a much higher level than we realize. Yeah. I just,
I mean,
I take.
you're really kind of, yeah. Go ahead. Keep
Yeah,
talking.
well, I just take exception with that because I need proof. So people get mad at me all the time because I said, look, I'm not, I said, I'm one of the guys on y'all side. I said, they exist. I said, do you realize I'm one of the few people in the field that actually has the pedigree to even do this? I have a baby psychology degree. I said, I have special forces. I said, I have advanced aircraft recognition and advanced avionics and electronics. I said, I have hypnosis, body language recognition, software recognition, facial recognition, hypnosis. I said, there's not many people in the field that know what I know and not even have the connections I do. I said, I've made a lot of good connections over the last 4 decades that it's going to be hard for anybody to beat. And I said, I'm on y'all's side. I said, but I can't. I said, when you make it so much bullshit, I said, when I present it to the general public, people are like, well, wow, that's interesting. And y'all presented to people, they're like, they're fucking crazy. Let's go away now. I know, people. We need even if you know you're right beyond any reasonable right. You know in your head you're right, but you got this fantastic, crazy story. No, save it and smooth it because you need people to be on your side, not against you. And the crazier it is, the less likely somebody's going to buy into it. And you can build up to that if you know it's real. You can build up to it. It's one of the reasons we don't talk about the council a lot, because when you get in the grandeur of the council, it's a lot for people to take, and it also sounds too Star Trek, Star Warsy, depending on what I mean, so we want people to look at it. It's like when I talk about, you know, Betty and Barney Hill, I give them, look, think what you want, but this is what I think. So now you have two explanations. You pick the one you want. You know, one's a little bit more plausible than the other, but it's still there. A lot of things like Rendlesham Forest, we've talked about many times and given other explanations for, and I've brought all the guys on. But I can't, Jim Burrows and Peniston went crazy. They talk about their time travelers now and this, that, and the other damn thing. And whole time.
Wow.
And then Larry Warren, Larry, you can talk to Larry Warren and he'll tell you everything he knows, which is a nice thing about Larry. But he gets the least bit of attention, I guess you should say. They are making the movie Capel Green. Maybe they'll finish it one day. I did the hypnosis research in it, but I did voice stress analysis in it. The number one person who does hypnotherapy in the UK did the hypnosis on it. He passed both flying colors. But still,
really?
Yeah. So what happened was that somebody kept saying he was lying about this, lying about that, lying about this. Somebody he was actually staying with. And I figured out there was something else going on there, some other kind of relationship going on there. Even though I don't think it was like a love thing, but she goes, well, so I said, what are you talking about? I said, is he lying about alien abductions or he's lying about whatever happened at Rendlesham? She said, no, but he said he's got all this memorability, he's full of shit. I said, I could give a shit less. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't care. I said, whatever memorability, whatever connection, whoever he said he knew of in the past as far as movie stars, I don't care. I said, I just need to know about the alien stuff. All the rest of it's BS to me anyway. And in which, of course, sent her into it. She wrote a whole website about me. People don't get it. They always say, oh, it's bad press. Not always. Not always. Unless you're like a pedophile, it's not always bad press. A lot of times it's just bring attention to somebody press. She did. She was up. So I ran into her one afternoon online. I said, you know what, I want to thank you. She said, what? I said, ever since you made that mean website about me, the amount of followers I have almost tripled. I said, I just wanted to tell you thanks. I said, I don't know what she was doing, but it really helped out. She was just so mad. But it was true. I mean, sometimes, because I can sell my own stuff. I mean, you can talk dirty about me all you want. When somebody comes and meets me, they're going to be like, wait, it's not adding up here, man. This dude ain't what you said he was. It's just, I want people to think. That's my job, is to make people think. They don't have to believe me. It doesn't really matter. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. But people need to think and not be gullible. It's like when we were talking about the crash thing. Because I get crashes all the time. How? There's so many crashes. Really? And when I say things like the FAA, they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. I said, currently, right now, for every one airplane that's crashed, like 50 UFOs have crashed. No, people. That's not true. I said, even if you go, and like the guy who gave testimony in Congress, he said they had 75 crashed in the last 2 years. Really? Why would you send another one? I mean, what, are they that ignorant of a species? They're just going to keep sending. And what happened to the 2,000 years before that, or 200,000? Where are all those crashes at? Aren't they laying at the bottom some dirt somewhere? Right. I mean, come on, think about what you're saying. So when you listen to these people that were going to Congress, they want to start like it's happening right now, today. Not that it's been going on for how many ever thousands of years. They want to tell you, oh, well, no, it's no. Did y'all forget about the Foo Fighters? Well, that was just 50 or 80 years ago now. Oh, damn, God's going by fast. But still, I mean, and you keep going backwards, and they're like, we just need people who just want to be honest, see what's going on. As far as somebody asked me about Trump the other day, is he going to tell us the truth? He'll tell us what he can tell us. But remember, he's not. His clearance is not high enough to break the UFO thing. Even and if he'd have done back-to-back 2 terms, he might have had the ability. And he's well liked right now. He's scoring up there with Reagan and Kennedy, which blows my mind. But he still doesn't have the rank to tell Tim and I what's going on. They're not going to let him do it. No, they're not going to tell him. So he can't even tell us, because they're not even going to tell him. They're going to be like, Mr. President, you know you can't know this. You're gone in 4 years. Somebody else is coming, and you can't know this. And you're kind of for a president, you got kind of a big mouth, really, guy. I don't know. Clinton wanted to know. We had to tell Clinton, sorry, dude, you got a big mouth too. We can't tell you either. So Reagan knew though, but Reagan only knew because, Daddy Bush told him. Daddy Bush knew because he was head of the CIA, and then he was vice president, and then he was president. He probably knew a lot of secrets that nobody else knows, but he told Reagan, and when he told Reagan, and you could actually see when he told Reagan, because all of a sudden, here's Reagan. First thing Reagan did was go out and make a speech about what would bring the world together. Oh, an alien invasion. And then he built, then he built the HARP facility. Then he built Star Wars. This dude was preparing for something. Look, he knew something was going on. He wanted to blow something up, and not something down here on Earth either. Pine Gap is the joint British defense of outer space. That suggests out planets or maybe out past the solar system. That does not suggest up by the moon or anything, man. I don't know. That bothered me from the first day I heard about it. And then the HARP facility up there, giant lasers punching holes in the ionosphere, Pine Gap bouncing stuff off from the HARP facility, shooting lasers from the Star Wars satellites. God knows what they got going on. And no, Jimmy,
seriously,
Star Wars was the first time I seen the Star Wars lasers up close. I was in San Antonio, Texas. This thing was huge. First off, they had these discs that were about the size of my house, and they had these ribs punched in them, and they would set on top of the laser, and the laser would superheat them and shoot them into space. They were trying to figure out a way to send stuff in space without. It all started because somebody wanted to build a space elevator. We don't have the technology quite for that yet. So they figured, well, we just hook these discs up, hook all our stuff on it, superheat them, shoot them into space, and the astronauts in space can just retrieve them with some kind of retrieval craft and bring them to whatever they got to go to, the moon, the base, whatever. The new star base, whatever it is. I don't know. I guess it didn't work as well as they thought it was. So I don't know what happened. I only got to go one time. And I had to pull all kinds of strings for that.
Big, right? You see the size of your house?
Oh yeah, the ones I seen were about the size of my house is. See, right now we're the piece of 2,200 square feet, so it's pretty big. It's I was surprised. It could actually fit over my house with the edges hanging over it. So I was kind of like, look at this thing. And it was cool because they gave us a demo. We sat there and they gave you these pretty little green glasses. And you heard this, woo, it got a little higher pitch, and all of a sudden this thing just went. And you were like, what the? And it was gone. But when I say it was gone, it was gone. It was out in space, and I think under 4 minutes it was in orbit. Yeah, man, it just blew it out there. I was like, look at this. And the guy said they could attach small amounts of stuff on it right now. He said the problem they had is they could attach a lot of stuff, but the laser had to get so powerful and so heated that it would just melt a hole through the center of the disc before it got into space. It just fall back to Earth. So obviously that wasn't working. But it was cool to watch. I got to see the Delta Clipper fly, which was cool as hell. Delta Clipper was
fun.
It was. So Delta Clipper was like a weird capsule. When it took off, it went off, and you would hear it made popping sound like pop, 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 pop. And you'd see these little thrusters come on different places that stabilized. They could just sit there in our atmosphere, just poop, 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 and not move, perfectly stable. It could move up, it could go up into space, it could go here. It was a cool, but I never heard what happened to it. I don't know what if they quit developing it or they went on to something else. I know they got the Mana 44. We got a lot of cool stuff out and about. And of course, DARPA's been flying that rock they have for, I don't know what, 6 years, 8 years now?
The
X-72 or no,
you're not talking about that. Was that the X-33?
Yeah, it might be what it is. I call it the flying rock, but the flying brick is actually what I call it. But it's been over Mach 12.5, so we know it can cruise inside the atmosphere. At Mach 12.5. It's and all of that belongs to whatchamacallit now, it's Space Command. DARPA got sucked in and thrown under Space Command, and the Navy and the Air Force now have to report to Space Command. Before anybody asks, the Navy and Air Force both have their own space programs. They're not secret space programs; they have space programs. Yeah, they exist now. If they have something secret out there, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you that both the Navy and the Air Force have their own space programs. Yes, because the Air Force don't want the Navy having all the fun. That's all. Because in all the movies when you watch them, it's always Navy stuff out there. So the Air Force is like, no, we're not going to allow this. We're going to be out there too. So You ever watch Stargate? That was Air Force stuff. Yeah, there you go. Look, there you go.
It was all Air Force, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of weird how it is. What do you mean? What about a colonel? There's lots of colonels. What are you talking about? Oh no, Navy don't have colonels.
Colonel.
Captain. They have a captain. Their captains
I
are
see.
equivalent to anybody else's colonels. Yeah, the captains can command ships. They can be governors, stuff like that. Yeah, they're not in the Navy, not in anywhere else. And so in the Air Force, and all captains are lower rank. It's lower than a colonel or even a lieutenant.
Yeah. That's why they had colonels leading most of those missions in SG-1.
Yes.
I mean, that was an example. It wasn't real, obviously. Oh, maybe it was. Who knows? But
I'm not ruling anything out at this point. I've heard many rumors about Stargate. So
Yeah.
I'm not. Well, that's what they said. George Bush's first war was looking for the Stargate in the desert. They thought Baghdad had it, and they were looking for it. And then because he killed all them damn kids, what's his name's kids in the castle, that's why he ended the war. People say, well, I don't understand why the war ended the way it did. I said because he accidentally screwed up and killed 3 or 4 of Hassan's kids, which I don't see what the big deal was because the other ones grew up to be bastards anyway. So I'm still not sure what that was all about. But he did, so he had to end the war, and that's what probably cost him from getting reelected. And it was strange. And then Baby Bush went back and spent 8 years over there looking for whatever he was looking for. Yeah, because they were doing a lot of weird ratings. They were in a lot of museums. There were a lot of places you wouldn't expect the U.S. military to be going. We don't have no business in a Iraqi. Yeah, I mean, what are we doing in their museums for unless we're stealing stuff? We have no business being in there. We're over there killing people who were trying to kill us. So we were looking for something. And then, well, like one of my friends got mad at me one day. I was doing a news show and he's screaming at me about there was no weapons of mass destruction. I said, yeah, there was. There was one for sure that I know of. He said, what was it? I said, Saddam Hussein, who killed 6 million people. I said, that's a weapon of mass destruction, my friend. I said, do you know how many Iranians he killed? Come on, dude. I mean, I don't know what you classify. And he was like, well, that's cheap. I said, no, that's the truth. Yeah, I mean, he was impressive. But, but there was a lot of UFO seen over at Baghdad. Right, matter of fact, CNN, this is so funny. So CNN, this is before CNN became whatever it is today. When CNN was the news, it was when they had crazy people out there in Baghdad hanging over balconies, watching stuff blow up, getting in the streets, trying to get filming and stuff. When they were actually, real news reporters around. So they're filming this thing. Here comes a cruise missile. Cruising along, they're filming it. Here comes another. Cruising along. And the guy's like, looks up, and when he does, you see this white disc thing, and then you see a guy behind him's hand come over the camera and push it down.
I've seen that footage.
And he's like, what did you do that for? He said, obviously don't belong to anybody around here. We don't want to film it. He's like, what? And then the guy's trying to hang over the balcony after that, trying to get it on tape again. He's like, no, stop it. It looked like a white disc. I got a similar thing. I was staying at the Wyndham in LA, the one by the airport. And they had some kind of special lounge upstairs, I guess, because I was in one of the suites. It's not stuff I paid. I was out there for Ancient Aliens, actually. And so the guy said, well, you got access to the Sky Suite. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And he said, drinks are on us. I was like, wow, well, that's sweet. I'll go up and have a drink. So they give me the car. I go up there. I'm sitting there. Beautiful view over Los Angeles, just mainly the airport and other buildings. But it's beautiful out there, some mountains. So I'm sitting there watching. I'm taking pictures like a moron tourist would do. And seeing this weird thing. So I started zooming. And I kept thinking there was something behind me reflecting on the window. Because I kept getting these little white discs in my film. I said, it's got to be something reflecting because that's what it looked like. So I take it and I spin around on the chair and I'm taking pictures. Ain't no white disc anywhere. This chandelier's hanging, all kind of others. I'm like, what the hell is this? So then I noticed in the third picture it actually had moved over almost to the next window. I was like, okay, what the hell? I have no idea what it was. It looks like 2 little white covers off a light is what it looked like. Just cruising along through the sky.
Really?
Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean, and they didn't look much higher than the hotel. I mean, the Wyndham's probably 30 or 40 stories, but it didn't look much higher than that. Floor it was far 5,000 feet in height. It was just 2 of them. Just looked like something out of one of them 50s, 60s movies. Just cruising along. And then I watched it for a little while, and the little girl came to get my drink. And I looked up right as she said it down, right as I looked up, they both went sideways. and then kind of turned like this and whoosh, and they were gone. They just disappeared. They didn't look like they streaked off. They just like maybe they went through a portal or a hole or something. They were gone. And the waitress.
Oh, interesting.
The waitress was watching because she asked me when I was watching. I said those, and she was looking at it when it happened. She's like, "What was that?" I said, "I wish I knew." She think it was aliens. I said, "It might have been." She said, "Oh shit, I'm getting a new job, not in the sky anymore." I started laughing. I said, "Tip her $10 as well."
Oh man,
it was funny though.
I gotta show you.
It was funny.
I gotta show you this one little thing. I keep talking while I call it up.
Okay, go ahead. I was, but it's, and then it's like in you go down the Gulf Breeze or somewhere like that. And you're talking to one of the cops, and he's telling you about this alien that was hovering over his car and stuff in his car. It sounds like something out of Close Encounters. The car's shaking, the signs are shaking. I'm like, really? I said, dude, did you ever see Close Encounters? What's Close Encounters? You should watch it. And then call me after you watch it. And, I mean, he's just going on and on. I was talking to one of the people who were in the car with Ed Walters. When they ran up on the one over the street, the thing was just following. It was just like riding down the street. It was some highway back in the woods. It was just cruising along with its light on, facing down at the ground. It was just like cruising along. And he said they stayed behind it. It just obviously it knew it was there. He said, I got several shots of it. And he said, then it stopped, and we stopped. He said, because I wasn't going under it for nothing. And then he said, just kind of lifted up and took off. I was like, because he had been taken a couple of times, which he didn't like talking about. See, people used to always get mad and tell you he was hoaxing it. But when the first time I met him, I asked him some pretty hard questions. He said, I know you. I've heard you talk. And I said, yeah, probably. I had a big mouth. I talk a lot. And back then, I talked a lot more. And, I was traveling a lot. He's kind of like, so you believe in these? I said, I don't believe in anything. I said, I either seen enough evidence to know it's true, or I'm still wondering what the hell. I said, in your case, I said, I got a couple questions I want to answer. I want you to look me straight in the face. And he said, yeah, I heard you do voice stress. I said, yeah, but I do a few other things besides that. I said, I got degrees with language and facial recognition. I said, it had nothing to do with UFOs, by the way. I learned that working for against thieves. I said, that's how good I was at it. And so he made him nervous instantly. I started asking him questions, and he's just pop, pop, pop. You could hear his voice shaking and gravelly in a couple of answers, not because he's trying to lie, because he was scared. So you were really scared, weren't you? He said, I was petrified. He said, my wife said it's the only time she ever seen in the entire line we've been married that I was something. He said, I'm not scared of anything, Joe. I'm nuts. And he said, I was petrified. He said, at some points I didn't even feel like I could move. He said, I didn't even know how to act. And he said, then when I realized a couple of times I was alone by myself and there was no one with me, part of me felt relieved that my family was safe, but then I was just even more devastated because I was alone. He said, they're not exactly, let me hold your little hand while we do whatever we're going to do to you. I said, yeah, no, they're just kind of, oh, yeah, you, but whap, whap, spam, slap, boom. Yeah, okay, you can go home now. And, wait, we got to wipe some of them memories first. Then we're going to let you go home. Oh, okay. He was scared. And, it's like the first time I ever heard Barney Hill on the abduction tape. He was scared. I mean, you could hear in his voice. His voice was shaking and rattling. He screamed a couple of times. And I remember listening to all of the tapes, and the first thing that popped in my head is how come I didn't hear Betty scream? She's that much braver than her husband.
Yes.
And I'm not going to rule that out because sometimes women are braver than men. My wife is much more brave than I am. Matter of fact, she's a crazy bitch. She go walking on military bases and stuff, down tunnels and stuff, downstairs. I go down where to nowhere. I'm like, you're crazy, woman. She just take her. We sit next to Eglin Air Force Base one day. She hates the water, by the way. She walks around the fence, and the water starts walking down Eglin. I'm like, babe, what are you doing? I'm standing outside the fence. She said, you coming or not? I said, well, I gotta come because I can't let nothing happen to you. And then she finds this building in the middle of nowhere on a beach. She said, look, there's stairs going down. And it was some weird. It was just like a stair, like a brick wall, a little stair opening, and like a couple of stairs. You thought you'd go down, but when you looked down, it just went down. I mean, just for as far as you could see, it was going down. And what bothered me was it had to have been left like that for us to see it. Because it can't always be like that because other people who might be on that beach, because a lot of the military people use that beach for recreation. So you know there must have been something that slid out that blocked it. And the first 4 sets of brick were a different color than all the rest of the brick. So
No.
I still don't remember anything.
Okay.
All I remember is we lost like 12 hours.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our show. We're coming up on 15 seconds left, and then we get a cut on out. Thank you so much, Joe, for being on the show with me again. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time. My name is Tim Sudano. This is Paranormal Insight. Thank you so much. Have a good night.